Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do a month type wrap-up type thing. This is sort of kind of like a collection of novels that I've read in the past like month or so, and along with some TV shows and movies that I've finished or watched in the past month. Some of these are rereads and some of them are rewatches. But anyway, so the first I'm gonna do a bunch of novels that I've read. I'm gonna try to give a little bit of a synopsis of a couple of them. But I read Monster by Walter Dean, and this is a YA fiction. I read this for my class, so that's the reason why there's a sticker on it. And pretty much it is just about a boy, and I cannot remember his name for the life of me. Steve Hartman. And it's pretty much, it's a little bit different than most novels because it is kind of told through a journaling perspective, and it's also told through a script stage-like perspective, the way it's written. So I guess an example I could show you is pretty much kind of like this, if you can see. So it's about a boy named Steve Martin, and he wants to be a director, and he likes writing down his thoughts and ideas, and he just wants to do screenplays. So that's kind of the reason why it's told through the screenwriting type perspective. It's also told through his personal journal writing perspective because there are scenes where it's just like his handwriting. There's also some images within this novel to kind of like help you out a little bit with the way it's visually designed. And pretty much this novel is about him and how he is involved with a murder. He was involved in a pretty much store robbing, and it went wrong, and the cashier, I believe, got killed, and he is on trial against some of his other fellow criminals, and he is pretty much trying to prove his innocence, that he wasn't involved, that he didn't have any involvement in it, and the whole entire time you're kind of very confused as to whether or not he did do it. This novel really reminded me of the Netflix show When They See Us, and it reminded me of that. His character kind of reminded me a little bit of that. And the reason why you're kind of really confused as to whether or not he did commit the crime is because he's kind of an unreliable narrator. He talks about how, like, I didn't do anything, but then he'll talk about how he is in jail and he hears other people's stories, and he's like, well, this kid didn't do anything either, but he got caught and he's guilty, so am I guilty? So it's kind of like this back and forth between narratives on, this is like, it's like this back and forth on whether or not you should believe that he did it or not. So that's the spoiler non-version of that. So if you don't want to be spoiled, he did have a hand in it. He was pretty much just the lookout. And he doesn't get committed. He's not found guilty by the end of it. But there's a lot of conversations about how he was involved, and his lawyer doesn't ever say that she doesn't believe that he is guilty or not guilty. She kind of just, she looks at him, and he talks about how she looks at him all the time, and he kind of feels like she might see him as a monster. It was a really interesting novel, and I really would recommend it for anybody to read. I loved it. And if you're a fan of crime type of an investigation novels, I think you would like it too. It's a really, really great novel. Anyway, so moving on. Another novel that I recently did a review on, and if you want me to do a review on Monster, I wasn't going to. I don't know if I should, just because it's kind of like this novel and the other novel that I read previously, where I love it so much, but I don't really have a lot to talk about it because I'm kind of just like, I don't know how to I don't know how to say these novels without spoiling details. But like, I want people to go and read it, kind of, in a sense. But anyway, so I read Feed by MT Anderson, and this is another YA novel. I believe a majority, yeah, all of these should be YAs. This was a really, really, really great book. Go watch my review on it. I loved it so much. It's a lot different than most YA novels, just in the sense that it kind of just, it doesn't feel like a YA when you're reading it. It just feels more grounded, I guess. I don't know how to describe it. But it takes place years and years down the line, where humanity is pretty much dying, in a sense. The world is dying, and humans are just pretty much becoming consumers, and they're not caring about their mental health, and they're not caring about their physical health, and they're not caring about the world, and the world is just in shambles. And it's about a boy named Titus, who kind of is laid back and chill, and is kind of pretty much just like following the herd. And then there's Violet, who is more of, I want to say, the environment, what we're doing is wrong, and they have a relationship throughout the majority of the novel, and she's trying to convince him and his friends that, you know, we need to save the world. We need to stop idolizing the fact that, like, we're losing our hair and we're, you know, disintegrating pretty much, because they are kind of disintegrating within the novel, because of the way the world is, and the state of the world, and she's trying to make a difference. It doesn't have I don't want to spoil the ending. Go watch my review. It is such a great book, and the ending is just different. I just love it. And one thing I will say though, there is a lot of slang and terminology within this novel. Don't be scared by that though. Read it, because it actually is really, really great. When I first read the first couple of chapters, I was just kind of like, huh? But when you start getting into it, it's worth it. It's worth it. And also, I forgot to mention, the reason why it's called Feed is because they pretty much have the internet. It's called the Feed, and it's implanted into their heads for the most part, and it controls a majority of their motor skills, and that plays a part within the novel. And it's pretty much just like having the internet at your fingertips, but it's in your brain. But the other thing too is that it has ads, kind of, in a sense, and it tries to make the people more consumers, pretty much. Like, oh, if you check out this, you should go watch this, and you should go buy this, pretty much is what it's marketed to do. Really great novel. Really would recommend it. Ooh. Another book that I read was Marcello, and you can't even see the title. Marcello, Marcello in the Real World. This is another book that is a textbook that I read for a class. That's why there's no cover on it. It's a really, really, really great book. Would highly recommend it too as well. It is about a boy named Marcello. He's 17 years old, and he has some characteristics and symptoms that of Down syndrome. No, losing my train of thought. And he suffers, he doesn't suffer. His name is Marcello. He's 17 years old, and he has some characteristics of Asperger's syndrome. And this novel does talk about mental illness, and it is very, very good at the way it talks about it. It doesn't just make you sympathize with the character, it makes you feel like you are the character. I didn't find it weird while reading it. Like, I enjoyed reading it. I really, really loved it. It pretty much, it takes place over the course of a summer, and his father works for a law firm, and he wants to see if his son can actually live in the real world, in a sense. And he wants to, it's kind of also preparing him to, like, you know, tell his son, like, maybe we shouldn't have you in this special school, maybe we should put you in a regular school, kind of, in a sense. He just wants to see where his son lies in general. And throughout the whole entire novel, you just feel like his character, Marcello, has so much humanity compared to everybody else in the novel. He just feels like any other normal person, which I appreciate the fact that this novel doesn't, like, overly dramatize mental illness. Like, it just makes you realize, like, you know, everybody is the same, and everybody is special in their own way. So I really appreciate this book. I really loved it. It does have a love relationship sort of in the novel, and there also is a little bit of mystery involving the law firm, and it has a little bit of deception slash blackmail between a couple of different characters. But it's a really great book, and I would highly recommend for anybody to read it. Then we have this novel, and it's called When We Collide, and I believe this was a really popular, it's called When We Collide by Emery Lord. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name. This is also another textbook. As you can tell, I've been reading a lot for classes. Anyway, so I didn't really fully love this novel. It also talks about mental illness. The story is about a girl, actually it's taken through two different perspectives. It's about a girl named Vivi and a boy named Jonah. And Vivi is the one who has, bipolar syndrome. Sorry. And Vivi is bipolar. And not that this novel dramatizes mental illness. I don't think that it does by any means. I actually know somebody personally who is bipolar, and I mean, it kind of helped me a little bit to figure out a little bit more about the illness. And I do think that it touches on a lot of good topics. It's pretty much kind of like a love relationship type story between the two characters. It switches between both perspectives, and also with Jonah, he pretty much is kind of like upholding his own personal family. And they're both really young, they're both teenagers. And he is kind of like the man of the household within his own family, and his mother is suffering with depression. I believe their father passed away. And pretty much he kind of just stumbles upon Vivi during the summer. And is her name Vivi or Vivian? I cannot remember for the life of me. Yeah, Vivi. He stumbles upon her, and he kind of like becomes dad to her. There's like a moment where like he's making lunch for her consistently, and he's kind of just like, why am I making lunch for her like I'm her father? Like, it's just kind of like cute little moments like that. And I mean, like, it is a really great novel. It's not my personal favorite, and I think the reason why it's just because of the relationship aspect to it, and then there is a inciting incident towards the end, and it kind of just shifts the perspective because things don't totally end up the way you think that they would. And I don't know, like, there's also the part of me too is that so Vivi in the beginning, she pretty much just stops taking her medication for her illness, and I kind of wish that we knew who her real character was prior to the novel, because we kind of didn't really know who she really is when she is on the actual medication, and then by the end of it she kind of like just changes a little bit her personality. So it's kind of a little bit like, where did this come from? Oh yeah, she may have not been the real person that we thought she was. Even though she does state that like she wouldn't have changed anything during the whole entire summer, it still is kind of weird. It's kind of a little off-putting just because her narrative is not very reliable because she has a mental illness. But at the same time though, I do understand where this book is coming from, and I do like it. I think I would give it like a 4 or 3.5 stars. I know a lot of people probably actually really do love this novel. I just really wasn't into it. I think it does have to do with the fact that like the whole love relationship type thing just, I'm not a huge fan of novels that like solely base their stories off of love relationships. Like that's the whole entire novel, because you know it's going to end up one way or the other, and it's kind of just really predictable. So I'm not a huge fan of like novels just basing their whole entire story off of writing off of the fact that it's a love story. So as you can tell, I'm not a fan of like novellas and stuff like that. So yeah, read that. And then we're gonna bust it out with a classic, Dracula. I loved this novel. Oh my god, guys, I'm not a huge like vampire fan, but I loved this novel. Would highly recommend if you are really into classics or you want to delve into that, or if you're just a fan of vampires and you want to see where it sort of originated from, read this. I know that there are a lot of debates about how, like, oh, you know, like, this is pro men and not pro women because it is an older classic, but it's a really great novel. I really like it. It's really just cool to see like where vampires came from, like the idea of it, and how they're so overly sexualized and how they're really kind of grained into our culture, which is kind of interesting. I read this for a class because the class is about vampires and zombies, and it's kind of just like talking about how like vampires are very sexualized and this and this and this, and why is it so ingrained into our culture, and how we kind of like idolize vampires in a sense, and we also like the idea of having relationships with them. It's just really interesting to see where it all came from, and I really enjoyed it. I really loved it. Yeah, it was a really great novel. I don't really have any thoughts to say about it, just because it's such a long novel that like it's hard to like pinpoint every single little thing that I thought about within this novel. I just really liked the aspect of Dracula. Although I will say though, I guess like one thing that I don't really like is the fact that like he's not really seen a lot within the novel. He's more so mentioned a lot when you think about it. But it was a really great novel, and I really appreciated it. I liked it. So, yep, I can add that to my list of novels that I've read. Anyway, so then I read A Hole in My Life, and this is by Jack Gantos, and it's pretty much kind of similar to Monster, although I believe this is a memoir actually. Like I said, I don't read a lot of memoirs, but this is pretty much kind of like Monster, but the outcome is a little bit different. He actually went to jail and he wrote a novel about it. He wrote a memoir about it. So pretty much he was involved in, I believe he smuggled drugs to, I can't remember where, but he was smuggling cargo, and he got time for it. And the only reason why he did it was because he wanted to make some money to help try to go to college. So he actually had a legitimate reason for why he did it. He still got put in jail for it. You know, and it's because I read this also for a class, and it was the same class that I read Monster for, so we read these two back to back. So it was really interesting to see a fictional book about, they're both pretty much the same story, but like one is real and one's fictional, and I felt so much more sympathy towards him compared to the actual fictional character, Steve Hartman from Monster, and I felt like he didn't deserve to be put in jail. I don't know. I mean, you can talk about this in the comments below if you agree with me or not. But it was a really great novel. It's a really great memoir, and it's so cool that he actually did something with his life and didn't just, you know, continue on a life of crime. But yeah, it was a really great novel. Really liked it. And then, of course, you guys probably already know this because I did reviews on all three of these, or maybe you don't know this because I don't know if these reviews have come out yet. So, sorry if I spoiled future videos for you, but I reread the Hunger Games series. All for you guys. I reread it all for you guys, and also because my friend wanted to reread it before, I believe Songbird, I can't remember what it's called, The Ballad of the Songbird came out, the prequel to all of this that's based on President Snow. So we reread this, and I didn't read the prequel, but I reread this after 7 years, and it still holds up to this day, which is amazing. If you don't know what the Hunger Games is about, which, have you been living under a rock? Because they made movies, so and it's been a long time since then. But pretty much it's just about a girl named Katniss Everdeen and a boy named Peter Malark and another boy named Gale. Need I go on? No. And it's based on way into the future, where pretty much the world is separated into different districts, and the there were rebellions prior, and pretty much because of these rebellions, the government decided to take children from each district and make them compete to the death to pretty much just win for entertainment's sake, and kind of just give these districts, whoever the winner of for each district would get prizes pretty much. So it's an interesting story. I would highly recommend. There are 3 novels and a 4th one now. They're actually really decently good. Are they my favorite? No, particularly because of Katniss. But other than that, if you're a fan of dystopian fantasy and love triangles and deceit and games and I was gonna say child murder, but murder. And if you are a fan of like adventurous game type stuff and heroes and rebellion, then this is for you. This is definitely for you. You should read it. Yeah, so those are all the novels that I have read, and now we're gonna get into TV shows and movies that I've read. And give me a minute. So, future me is gonna hate editing this video because I'm going to have to put somewhere here that I have like the movie posters or whatever. But anyway, so some of the movies that I have watched, some of the movies and shows I've watched this past month was, so I watched An Interview with a Vampire. Really, really great movie. I had to watch it for a class. I really liked it though. If you have ever wanted to see Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise as vampires, I would highly recommend watching that because it is amazing. I forgot who else comes in it, and she's really well known, and I forget what her name is. Future me, please put her name up here. But anyway, so that was a really great movie. It's about vampires. Duh. And yeah, it was a really, really great movie. Another movie that I recently rewatched for a class was Twilight. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, like at this point, because I've rewatched it and I'm a little bit older, and because I've been taking this English class that's pretty much about vampires and zombies, I kind of have a weird appreciation for Twilight, just slightly, because I'm just kind of like, you know what, I kind of understand you, and also you kind of remind me of An Interview with a Vampire. But anyway, some other shows, movies and shows that I watched Pikachu for the first time. That was very interesting. I'm not really into not Pikachu. I watched Pikachu Detective. I can't remember what the full name of it is. I'm not really into Pokemon very much, but I really wanted to watch it specifically, and don't come for me in the comments. I specifically watched it because Ryan Reynolds came out in it. That was the only reason why I watched it. Also because Pikachu is really, really cute as a live action animated CGI character. The ending took me for a turn. I was very, very surprised. I did not expect that. Oh, my Ryan Reynolds. But anyway, some other movies that I watched. I really got into watching Stephen King for some weird reason. So I watched The Graveyard Shift. I watched The Silver Bullet, sort of, and then I watched, what else did I watch? I watched The Dead Zone. Oh, I can't remember what his name is. Christopher Walken. I was surprised to see him so young. I was just like, wow, wow. It was such a great, great movie. Oh my god. If you don't know what Dead Zone is, it is pretty much about the main actor, Christopher Walken. He plays this character who pretty much gets trapped into a coma after getting hit by a truck tank. Well, not getting hit by a truck tank, a truck tank fell over, and then he got into a car crash, and it didn't hit him entirely, but he was still in a car crash, and then he got into a coma for 5 years, and then he by the end of it, he has kind of like psychic powers when he touches people. So he can see their future and their past, but he can also see how they're gonna die. It's just like important information that he can tell them about. It's a really, really great movie, and I do believe that it's based off of a novel that Stephen King wrote, because Stephen King writes everything. But it was a really, really great movie. Another movie that I watched, which was Pet Sematary, the old one, not the new one. I haven't watched the new one yet. Pet Sematary, it was interesting. The whole entire time I was just like, don't do it, dude. Don't reincarnate. No, not reincarnate. Don't reanimate your family. Just don't. Like, the whole entire time I was just like, yeah, this is not okay. And then the ending really surprised me too. And then what else have I watched movie-wise? I'm trying to think if there was any other movies that I had watched. I can't remember. I cannot remember for the life of me. Jesus. What did I watch? I watched The Iron Giant again. I missed that movie as a kid. I loved it so much when I was growing up as a kid. I loved that movie. And then also, for the first time, I watched Jupiter Rising. If you see me looking down, it's because I have like my Netflix pulled up. So I watched Jupiter Rising. That was interesting, to say the least. It wasn't what I expected. It was okay. It wasn't the greatest. It was okay. And then I also watched The Girl with the, what is it called? The Girl with All the Gifts. That was really interesting. It's pretty much just a zombie movie, kind of, in a sense, where these young kids who, if they see or smell people, they pretty much just go zombie mode. There was another movie that I watched too, and I can't remember what it's called. And I'll probably like insert it here somewhere, but it was pretty much, it's also on Netflix, and it was about how like black ash was falling all over the world, and it was pretty much it was affecting women for some weird reason, so it was killing off all the women. It was really different and bizarre. I don't know if I liked it or not, just because it felt really weird. I was just kind of like, why is it just targeting women? But anyway. And then I also watched the Invader Zim movie. I believe I watched the first 2 seasons of Invader Zim, and then I never finished it. But I did watch the movie, and I was just kind of like, like, I see why everybody got into this. I was born in the late 90s, so I didn't really get to grow up entirely with all these kinds of shows as a kid, so now I get to relive them through Netflix because of nostalgic reasons. And then I also rewatched West Side Story with my one friend, because me and her are like a huge fan of West Side Story, and I swear every time I watch that movie, it's like something new every time. Like, I'm always just like, I could never get tired of this ever. And I really liked that movie. I also watched Splice, which was really weird and bizarre, and I liked it. There was something about it. If you've ever watched it, it's so different and cool. It is a horror movie, and it actually is pretty old, and I was surprised that it was old, and I'm just like, I really liked that. It was a really great movie. And then I also watched Freaks, which I believe is also another Stephen King movie. And I don't remember fully everything about it, but it's pretty much where some people. So freaks are pretty much just a term for people who have special abilities, and they pretty much are trying to hide from the rest of the world. And when they use their powers, I believe they bleed tears. And it's based around this one girl who, I believe she has the power to like control other people, and then her father is protecting her from the world, and he has the power to like stop time. So he's like harboring her in their home, and and she eventually gets out because her grandfather gets involved in it, and it's kind of weird because like her, and I'm basing this off of the movie, not the novel, but her grandfather, he just gives me the creeps. But anyway, so yeah, she eventually leaves and she tries to rescue her mom because she doesn't know where her mom is. And yeah, that's pretty much the majority of what the movie is about. And then I also watched Drive. It is with Ryan Gosling, and I can't remember what the other characters are. And I watched it with my friend during a Netflix movie night, and me and her were just kind of like, this is like the mild, mature version of Baby Driver. And it was made a long time ago, but anyway, with Ryan Gosling in it, and like just some of the scenes are just kind of awkward and like slow, and like it was so funny because we were watching it and then I kept realizing, I'm like, wait, I know that actor and I know that actor and that actor sounds familiar. But it was I don't really remember anything from it. And the other thing too is that like I was telling my friend this, and I'm like, why is it that like these movies get so acclaimed whenever Ryan Gosling is in them? And I'm just like, I don't really know if I like him as an actor. Like I just feel like people just use him in the promotions because it's Ryan Gosling. Is that just me? I don't know. Oh, and I also watched The Artist, which was kind of interesting. It's supposed to be a little bit old school type of film. It's really cool to watch because it's in black and white, but it's in modern day, kind of in a sense. So it's in black and white, and then spoilers, by the end of it, so they're filming a movie pretty much, and by the end of it, everybody is watching the film, and then it goes back into color, and then they all talk for the first time. So it's kind of like a silent film the whole entire time, and then by the end of it, they all talk, and I'm just like, that's really cool. So I don't remember everything else that happened in the movie, but it was pretty interesting. Oh, and then the previous movie that I talked about was called Only. And now onto TV shows that I recently watched. I recently watched fully for the first time because ironically I watched the first ever episode when I was really young and the last episode when I was really young. And for the first time in my life, I can proudly say that I watched the whole entire 4 seasons, not four, the whole entire 3 seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I wish I had a better childhood. I wish I had watched all of that when I was a kid, but I never really got to. Oh my god, I understand the hype. I understand it now. Oh my god, I loved that show. Every little bit of it was amazing. And when I first watched it, I was really excited that they were remaking the movie. Because I remember watching the movie as a kid and I thought it was just really boring. I don't remember a single thing that happened in that movie. And when I heard that they were going to do it for Netflix, I was so excited. But then the original writers, they're not working on the film anymore. And then when I heard about that, I told my friend, I'm like, because my friend's name is Caitlin, and I told her, I'm like, Caitlin, it's gonna end up like the original movie, isn't it? It's gonna be as bad as the original, isn't it? She's like, it might be. And I'm just like, great. Great. And then after that, we actually binge watched all of The Legend of Korra, all 4 seasons. I can say that I probably could have went my whole entire life without watching that. Not that it was a bad show. I did watch a lot of it when I was a kid, when I was a little bit younger, but like there's just, the only season that I actually really liked was the 3rd season, I believe. Yeah, it was the 3rd season. And the 4th season, the ending was just really melodramatic. The 3rd season, the only reason why it was interesting was just because like it had a little bit more intensity. And just like Korra, she's not a great character. Like I don't really care about her so much. Like I care about the villains more than I care about the good guys, if that makes sense. Within each story, I care more about them, which is not the greatest. Although I will say my three favorite characters out of all of them has to be Bolin, Pabu, and Varric. Out of all three of them, they are my favorites. Yeah, for the most part. And let's see, what other shows and movies have I watched? I got into Disenchantment because a friend of mine had recommended it to me, and then I ended up watching the whole entire show. And it was really good. I really actually liked it. And I really should get into Futurama and watch more of The Simpsons. I just haven't had time. It's just that when it comes to like shows like Futurama, The Simpsons, and Rick and Morty, which I believe I finished all of the seasons thus far. I'm so disappointed that they're not going to put it back on Hulu. But anyway, so things like The Simpsons and Futurama, they're kind of like they're kind of like shows that you put on in the background and you don't really pay attention to, but you kind of pay attention to, if that makes sense. They're like filler type of shows. Not to say that they aren't good, but yeah. And then I didn't watch the full entire season, but I guess shows that let's see, I'm trying to think if there were any other movies or shows that I watched. I feel like there were, but I don't recall. Oh, now I remember. I tried watching, which I think I'm just gonna have to rent the movies. I think I watched up to the third movie of Saw because, like I said, I've been getting really into the Halloween spirit. And I was just like, you know what? I never fully watched Saw because it kind of creeped me out as a kid. So I'm gonna try and watch more horror movies this month, and I'm really, really trying. I'm gonna try and make my way up to like the movie that I really don't want to watch because it freaks me the hell out. Guys, I'm like so terrified of like the Chucky franchise. It creeps me out that much. But anyway, so I guess we're gonna talk about shows, mostly shows that I haven't like fully watched, but I've been interested in watching because I watched like the first season of them. So for both of these classes, I had to watch this. So I watched the first episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which was really interesting. It was something that was not what I expected. And I forget what the actress's name is, but she also plays Daphne in one of the Scooby-Doo movies. And I remember I used to love that movie when I was a kid. But yeah, it was interesting to watch. Very feministic in a sense, for the time period. And then I also had to watch for a class the first episode, actually all of these are for a class that I had to watch, the first episode of Vampire Academy, and I'm actually surprised I'm kind of interested in it. I kind of actually want to watch the rest of the season, and I don't know guys, like this class is just kind of making me change my opinion on vampires, and I'm kind of just like, are they all bad? Like, should I watch The Vampire Diaries? Should I read more vampire novels? I don't know. I'm torn. And then also I watched the first pilot season of True Blood, I believe it's called. I don't know if I can get into that show. It's kind of like, it's interesting because there's like mystery in it, which is what intrigues me, but like some of the characters I just don't like. There's just something about them. Yeah, I don't know. Leave down in the comments down below if I should watch these shows, if I like, give me more recommendations for movies and shows that I should watch. Maybe I'll do a review on a couple of these movies and shows. I don't know yet. Part of me feels like I should, but then a part of me also feels like, I don't know, it's been a while since I watched them, so should I even do that? But yeah, I mean, I'm very new to the vampire world, so maybe I can do some reviews on that kind of stuff because it would be all new content for me. I could also do a review on Avatar if I wanted to, because maybe I will. I don't know yet. Probably not though, just because it's so much to cover within like not four. I don't know why I keep thinking 4. Within 3 seasons. It deserved 4 seasons. It deserved 4 seasons, but it's fine. It's fine. But anyway. So, yeah, that's pretty much all of the movies and shows and books that I've watched slash read in the past month. If you guys have any questions or comments, leave them down below. If you have any recommendations, leave them down below as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you want to watch more videos like this, subscribe. I try to post at least once every couple of weeks. Once every week or so, as best I can. And yeah, go check me out on Instagram. I will leave a link somewhere. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see all of you guys in the next video.